Vamos lá? Bom dia a todos de novo. E para quem está acompanhando a gente fora do país, obrigado pela presença. A gente vai dando início aqui de mais um Energy Talks, tá? E normalmente a gente faz esse encontro presencialmente lá no nosso hub, Arca Hub, aqui em Ipanema, no Rio de Janeiro. Dessa vez a gente está entrando no modo online porque a gente está fazendo a conexão Brasil-Israel. Não é surpresa para ninguém que o ecossistema de inovação de Israel é extremamente ativo e sempre surpreendente. Então, nessa rodada, a gente está indo online e internacional com o nosso Energy Talks. Para quem não conhece a iniciativa, o Energy Talks é um encontro mensal que nós do Energy Hub promovemos com as principais pessoas, players, empresas e pesquisadores do setor energético em cima de temáticas que são a tendência do setor e sempre focado na tecnologia e na inovação. Então, a gente é um grande encontro para network e conhecimento de novas tendências, inovação e negócios voltados para o setor energético. Eu sou Alexandre de Castro, sou diretor executivo do Energy Hub. É um prazer que você esteja aqui com a gente. E eu já queria chamar aqui para a nossa conversa. Shaw, por favor, pode abrir sua câmera e participar com a gente aqui do evento. Aí tá. Shaw, ele é da IBI-Tech, especialista no ecossistema de inovação de Israel, conhece muito. E brasileiro, ou israelense brasileiro, como desejar, mas, show. Muito obrigado pela participação, obrigado pelo seu tempo. Hoje a bola está contigo, eu vou ficar aqui na audiência só a- aproveitando o conteúdo. Por favor, se apresente e o palco é seu.
Poxa, Alexandre, muito obrigado. Um grande prazer estar aqui nesse Energy Talks. Já é um assunto que já vamos trabalhando aqui com o time do Energy Hub, sai do papel há algum tempo. Então, realmente é uma satisfação, até uma emoção estar aqui junto com vocês. Meu nome é Shaul, eu sou nascido no Brasil, minha vida adulta e profissional é aqui em Israel. Eu sou engenheiro de computação, mas já atuo no mundo de inovação tecnológica há mais de 15 anos. Então, realmente é um prazer estar aqui com vocês. Estou vendo aqui nomes conhecidos, o professor Bortoni. Então, é realmente um prazer. E hoje a gente vai apresentar os assuntos ligados à energia, energia renovável, os novos desafios desse mundo. Vamos ter aqui um keynote speech do Dr. Yaroslav, que depois eu vou apresentar, mas eu vou começar primeiro com uma apresentação rápida da IBI-Tech, quem somos nós, o que nós fazemos, e estamos muito felizes aqui com essa parceria com o Energy Hub. Então eu vou apresentar aqui e quem precisar ou quiser fazer alguma pergunta, sinta-se à vontade. Então, vamos lá. Eu vou botar aqui a apresentação. Vocês estão vendo a minha tela? Opa! Então, eu vou falar um pouquinho de o que é Israel. Não sei se todo mundo conhece, mas Israel é um país pequeno no Oriente Médio, onde sua economia ela é baseada em tecnologia. Realmente é quase que um milagre, um país que não tem recursos naturais. Gás, achamos gás offshore só nos últimos 5 anos. Então, o nosso principal capital é o nosso capital humano, e é lá que a gente investiu muito. Então, somos um hub de inovação, um país de 10 milhões de pessoas, com o maior índice de PhD ou cientistas per capita. Vários multinacionais vêm para Israel fazer P&D, temos mais de 500 centros de grandes empresas do mundo todo vindo para cá para fazer pesquisa. toda a parte de private equity, venture capital, fundo de investimentos que querem fazer inovação, que vem financiar a inovação. Israel é um polo muito, muito forte e em 2026 estamos vendo os índices retomando de investimento depois de 1 ano e meio, 2 anos que a situação estava um pouquinho mais complicada. Então estamos vendo aqui uma retomada muito forte dos investimentos. Startups é o que mais se fala aqui, né? Tel Aviv quem veio e conhece sabe que a quantidade de startups é muito grande, todo ano com novas em várias verticais. Então, é o que nós chamamos de The Startup Nation. Israel é um país pequeno, muito integrado, também pela sua história, pelas suas características do país, mas essa tríplice hélice, que todo mundo que estuda como montar um ecossistema de inovação, ele conhece, só que em Israel isso funciona. Então, essa relação entre governo, pela sua agência de fomento à inovação, que nós chamamos de Innovation Authority, onde tem não é uma política de inovação, é uma estratégia de inovação que ela quase que independe de governos. Então, com um budget muito grande de $500 bilhão ano, que nós chamamos a fundo perdido, né? Ou recursos não reembolsáveis. Então, isso pessoas vêm para cá para aprender como isso funciona. O governo também é responsável pelo investimento em toda a parte na indústria de defesa. Isso é um assunto, Israel é um líder nesse segmento. Junto a isso, temos a academia, a importância das universidades em pesquisa básica e aplicada, a importância das universidades na formação do nosso capital humano, engenheiros, cientistas, analistas de dados. Então, isso é muito importante, e não só as universidades de Israel têm o que nós chamamos de unidades acadêmicas de transferência de tecnologia. São as unidades que sabem pegar ao conhecimento que é formado, que é descoberto nas universidades e transmitir isso para o setor privado. O setor privado, eu botei aqui o último, mas na verdade ele no final é a locomotiva da inovação. Toda a parte de financiamento, venture capital, essas multinacionais que vêm para Israel fazer inovação, todos os hubs, aceleradoras, incubadoras, e no final são as startups que crescem disso tudo. Temperando essa tríplice hélice, tem os aspectos culturais aqui do país. É um país jovem, é um país ainda que mantém um crescimento demográfico alto, e tem um aspecto cultural que nós gostamos de nos arriscar. Então, o risco, tomar o risco, ser empreendedor, é uma coisa que temos bastante na nossa cultura. Não é à toa que muitos jovens querem ter sua startup e querem empreender. Israel tem excelência em muitos segmentos. Eu sei que hoje o assunto é energia, o futuro da energia, energética renováveis, mas quando a gente olha quais segmentos Israel tem excelência, são vários. Cybersecurity hoje é um que está sempre na mídia, na parte de saúde, na parte de aeroespacial e defesa. Israel detém todo o conhecimento desde a produção de mísseis, lançamento de mísseis, satélite. São poucos países que detêm toda a cadeia. Israel está nesse clube seleto. Tudo que é ligado a agritech, foodtech. Então, são vários segmentos, mas existe uma coisa em comum para todos eles. É o que nós chamamos de deep tech. Todas elas vêm de uma pesquisa básica muito, muito intensa, de uma pesquisa aplicada que começa nas universidades, mas vão também para as empresas que têm e desenvolvem alta tecnologia. Então, isso é um assunto, e como que vocês vão ver hoje, isso também combina e se relaciona com as empresas com as startups que a gente vai ver. Eu trouxe aqui um pequeno vídeo que eu vou sobre Israel com legenda em português e eu vou abrir aqui.
Israel, a small country that has become a powerhouse of science, technology, and innovation. Country of shortcuts, efficiency, and sophistication. From Rambam to Einstein via myriad medical marvels, a land flowing with milk and honey, but also with science and research, where things are not done by the book and where operating instructions are merely a recommendation. The land of the Bible, yet with nanotechnology and an amazing iron dome to cover your head, with Venus above showing farmers below where to plow. A land of give and take, protecting computers and networks. Of remembrance and never forgetting, where water is desalinated and drip irrigation nourishes our fields. Where there's no need for boxes because everyone thinks outside of them. Where people believe in doing it another way, reinventing ourselves for the past 70 years. 70 years of great ideas, expansion to new horizons. 70 sparkling years igniting technological progress and nurturing brilliant new concepts that change our world. Israel, a land of pursuit of the unknown, of prominent scientific and technological brains who have shined on the international scene for years, 70 years, and it's only the beginning.
Então, até aqui nós falamos de Israel, um pouquinho da IBI, apresentar rapidamente. Hoje nós somos o que nós chamamos de hub de inovação, a porta de entrada para grandes empresas brasileiras que buscam conhecer e entrosar dentro do ecossistema de inovação de Israel. A gente gosta de trazer esse slide que demonstra essas multinacionais que atuam em Israel. Amazon, Facebook, Broadcom, Apple. Elas estão aqui não porque vendem produtos, elas estão aqui nesse slide porque elas operam aqui com centros de P&D. Então, a nossa visão, a nossa missão é trazer as grandes empresas brasileiras para atuar aqui também e, como vocês podem ver, em diferentes segmentos. Nós temos um portfólio de soluções para diferentes necessidades. O primeiro aqui que estamos trabalhando aqui com a Energy Hub nessa parceria. Então, eu vou terminar aqui por aqui. E eu vou agora mudar para o inglês. We will shift to English. I'm very pleased to call for Dr. Yaroslav Efimov from Planetech. He will be our keynote speaker. He will present and focus on what is going on in Israel, on what the new name of Planetech. It started with energy, then it went to climate tech. Now we are dealing with the Planetech. So, Yaroslav, thank you very much for being with us here. And please, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Shaul, for this very warm introduction. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the great introduction. Let me please show my presentation and let me know if it works well. Is it okay? Can you see it? Shaul?
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much again. I'm Yaroslav Efimov. I'm head of science and technology at Planetech, and thank you very much for this opportunity. First of all, let me please introduce myself. I've spent more than 15 years across innovation, large-scale industrial projects, and corporate investments, mainly inside multinational vertically integrated energy majors such as ExxonMobil, Equinor, used to be Statoil, Rosneft, and Gazprom. In the next minutes, I'll give you numbers-based snapshot of the Israeli ecosystem, and especially with a focus on energy sector and why it's relevant for mining, oil and gas industry, hydrogen, infrastructure, and other use cases that can be applicable in Brazil. And after that, you'll hear concrete examples from the startups from our ecosystem. When we talk about climate and energy, I think the big picture is quite simple. The transition is already happening everywhere, but every country faces different operational constraints from grid stability, costs, reliability, security and speed of this transition. So today my goal is to open for you and for us together a very interesting discussion. Where can our innovation from Israel, where it can be used, and how we can bridge our innovation ecosystem with your organizations and work together in a practical way. Well, Planetech is the community, it is an innovation community focused on climate technologies across mitigation and adaptation. And I have to say that we are a joint venture of Israel Innovation Institute that has more than a decade of experience fostering innovation communities, and a Consensus Business Group that is one of the biggest family offices in the UK that has already invested more than $1.5 billion in Israeli startups. Our mission at Planetech is to build a global network for climate tech innovators. Well, in practice, that means that we are identifying challenges, mapping solutions, and turning connections into collaborations. We are not a lab. We are not developing our own technologies, but we are facilitating the implementation and development of these technologies. First, of course, development and then implementation, not just in Israel, but also globally. This is done by shifting the business focus and technologies towards climate change challenges and building a global network for climate tech innovators. The diagram on this slide, it represents our core logic. Startups, academia, other NGOs, corporates, investors, and government often sit in a separate silos. And we don't think that innovation can be done there at a fast pace. And our job is to centralize the ecosystem so that collaboration becomes repeatable. And it's not only about personal connections, but it's also about the process. I have to say that Planetech is an NGO. We are a non-governmental and non-for-profit organization, and this really helps us to work with all of the stakeholders from the ecosystem, and not just, again, local stakeholders, but also international partners and international companies. Later during the presentation, I will give you just some of the examples of our partnerships and of the projects that we've had. Basically, we operate in two modes. The first part domain is a big domain. It's knowledge sharing and knowledge creation that is done by different reports that we issue. We do courses, industry education, mapping challenges and solutions. And the second mode is to connect and implement. And this is done by matchmaking, open innovation processes, pilot building, etc. Here on these slides, you can see some of the examples of our from our domain, from knowledge sharing and knowledge creation. Those are focused reports. For example, you can see on this slide the report that we issued last year that was devoted to climate, to remote Earth observations, all the technologies like space tech that can be used and utilized for different businesses. That's not just communication or monitoring or surveillance, but it also can measure different things, that methane leaks, etc., etc. We also have Planetech Academy courses. We do ecosystem building to support for other countries. We have different tools for climate impact assessments to support startups. We do education programs at the Planetech Academy. We have different open calls for startups to address specific challenges from industry. And these tools, they help us translate complex fields into practical next steps for the stakeholders. A good example of our knowledge sharing is our annual report on Israel's states of climate tech that we developed in collaboration with Israel Innovation Authority. The reason I put this slide today for this presentation is that if you are interested in in the state and the ecosystem, climate ecosystem here in Israel, I truly believe that this is the best source of information about the companies, about the sectors. We've already issued 3 reports, and we've recently published the 4th report. You can see, well, we position ourselves as a main gateway at Planetech. We position ourselves as a main gateway between our local ecosystem and international players, meaning that if someone is willing to have an easy and very relevant and specific reach out to Israeli ecosystem, we are the first stop for that. And on the contrary, with all the companies and startups and investors that are working within our ecosystem locally, if they are interested in overseas and international operations, we also happy to facilitate. By scanning the QR code on the slide, you can download the report. I do have several slides in the presentation with just to give you an overview of the ecosystem. But if you're interested in more details, please feel free to download the report. The second domain of our activities is connection and implementation, and we implement through a few channels. We have a special dedicated digital twin of the ecosystem that is called Planetech Market Square to grow solutions, challenges, programs, etc. that are ongoing activities. We don't provide any we don't provide any services like scouting, but sometimes we partner with the companies and with different partners to have open innovation. For example, like on this slide, you can see that we had competition for, and now this is one of the biggest energy companies in Europe. And we helped them to identify the challenges that they had, and they were very different, by the way, from energy production and storage to biodiversity, and with all the protection of biodiversity in the regions of operation. But we also have meetups. Another big initiative that we had last year in 2025 was devoted to data centers, infrastructure, and AI with our partners. And I have to say that it wasn't just another AI initiative. That was we looked at the problem from another angle, and this angle was the infrastructure. What are the bottlenecks of the infrastructure? By the way, in terms of energy as well, is there enough energy supply? And we know that it's not enough. What are the main constraints? What can be done? We brought all these stakeholders around this challenge together in one room, and we had a year-long initiative, different roundtables, discussions. Also, we had a call for solutions from the startup. So it was one of the initiatives. Another part is our global Planetech World Conference that we usually have in October in Tel Aviv. But when we touch the topic of our partners, I can say that we operate at 3 different levels, from a national level and corporate level, going higher and higher for state level, and sometimes even for intergovernmental partnerships we have. On this slide, you can see just examples of the logos of the partners that are just examples of our partnerships from different businesses and geographies. You can also see that it's EU, US, Southern America as well. And of course, we'll be happy for new collaborations and your companies to see them here in the future. Another example that I just decided to put it here because it's a bit closer in geography, and it also gives some understanding of what we do at Planetech. We've just finished a big project with UNCCD, that's United Nations Commission to Combat Desertification, and IDB, Inter-American Development Bank, for the Atacama region. And I'm pretty sure that you know this region very well. We helped local stakeholders to identify the challenges and to bridge them with solutions. And I have to say that it wasn't, the solutions were not only Israelis. It was an international call, but we were happy to see, by the way, in the end, that we had several solution providers from Israel. In the end, now there are 4 ongoing pilots that were funded by IDB, and they are now being implemented. This slide also gives some understanding of our activities with our other partners in open innovation and identifying challenges and running competitions. I will not spend your time here, but just wanted to mention that we also have a big partnerships with AB InBev. This is the biggest brewing company maybe in the world, to help them. And surprisingly, they also had the challenges in water tech, in energy, and in other things. But since I'm opening the agenda, I want briefly describe why Israel is considered a global hub for innovation. And we had an amazing introduction to that in the video. I really love that. Yeah, I really love that. It's amazing. But on this slide, you can see comparison with other countries, Israel and other countries, in terms of GDPs, in terms of export and GDP. You can see that high-tech is Israel's leading economic growth engine. And that is based on the structural pillars like high R&D intensity. Israel leads the world in R&D investment relative to GDP. Startup density. Israel has the highest, and I underscore that, it's the highest number of startups per capita globally. Very strong academic and research institutions. We have top-tier universities such as Technion, Hebrew University, Weizmann Institute, and they produce cutting-edge technologies and research, and they have a very steady pipeline of talent. High-tech is leading. It's a leading engine for economic growth, and the Israeli ecosystem, high-tech ecosystem, it exemplifies. It's really a great example how a small nation can become a global innovation. And it's not just a hub for startups, but it's a robust, very scale-up oriented and globally integrated economy, proving that innovation, it's less about size, but it's more about mindset, structure, and vision. And to describe that, I really love this term of startup nation DNA. And here are on this slide some numbers to showcase the strengths and importance of high-tech, and climate tech is a part of high-tech of Israel's sector. There are more than 9,000 companies that have R&D sectors here or 500 companies, 500 multinational companies that have R&D centers here in Israel. We have more than 9,000 high-tech companies overall that are active and that have investments. We have a very strong presence of international investors. And again, you can see that the percentage of GDP that is devoted to R&D is extremely high. It's 6%, and of course, it's again that's out of the box thinking, definitely. But climate tech is a big part of the big high-tech ecosystem, and specifically, Israel has more than 1,000 of companies that are developing solutions that are somehow related to climate. And I have to say that those are not just the companies that are connected with carbon removal or capture, storage, utilization. Not like that. You will see that we have different pillars and we're very sector agnostic. I have to say that there is a very strong, despite of all the circumstances and shocks that we've recently witnessed, we see very strong investment momentum since 2018, and it's still going on. We have more than $9.5 billion invested in the startups within the ecosystem. And this indicates that we can really meet the real demand. Let me spend a minute to describe the idea that we have, the idea of our sector agnostic approach. As you know, there is no unified and single definition of climate tech, right? And at Planetech, we developed something what we call a challenge map, climate challenge map, this is a structured breakdown of the major real-life challenges that either need advanced technologies in terms of reductions of emissions, or that help to adapt to the changing world, or that increase efficiency of different processes and production lines. So we've grouped all of them into 5 big domains that you can see on this slide. This is the built environment where we live and how we move things, how we produce things, clean energy systems. We have land use, that everything that is devoted to soil and agriculture. We have materials and manufacturing, everything that is predictive maintenance, new materials, carbon removal, transparent and agile supply chains. We have nature, of course, everything that is devoted to biodiversity and species protection, monitoring, extreme weather events, and so, etc. We have also recently introduced this digital pillar, as it's also getting momentum. And by mapping these things out this way, we give innovators sort of the compass where to go and what to address. I have to say that this is a very, well, on the one hand, it's very sophisticated taxonomy, and it's very different from other taxonomies if you are familiar with different climate taxonomies. But we have 5 big pillars, and each of the pillar has up to 5 what we call challenge areas, and each of the challenge area is later then described by very certain challenges, and each challenge has has description. I think. Oh, on the next slide. I will show you the how it works specifically on several examples. But earlier I'd mentioned that we know the ecosystem very well, and we really know it that well. And to know what's going on and the dynamics and everything, we need to have our own analysis. And this is the growth map of climate tech domains in Israel. This is a figure, an illustration from the latest report. You can find it there. But here I just wanted to show that we have several clusters. On the vertical axis, you can see the percentage of young companies, and by young company we mean the company that is less than 4 years old. And by the horizontal axis, you can see the accumulated investments in $1 million. And you can see different clusters. Of course, the size of the circle represents the number of startups that are addressing this challenge. But what I think is the most important, to mention 2 things. First of all, that it's very dynamic and it's changing, and it's great for us as an ecosystem builder to see the dynamics within the ecosystem, to see new new areas and new challenges that are being addressed. But on the other hand, we also see established fields, and what is relevant to our energy talks today is that the energy sector in Israel is very well established, both in terms of investments and in terms of number of companies. Here you can see the example of our taxonomy from built environment to clean energy systems. Why I think it's important, because you can see the tree of challenges, and you can see that in the end you have a very specific challenge, for example, energy storage, and those are all the solutions around this challenge. By the way, we are not gathering only solution providers, but around the challenge we gather the stakeholders, meaning challenge owners, other organizations that are working around this challenge, solution providers. And this approach, challenge-based approach, it helps us to gather around the challenge only relevant players, of course including companies that are developing different solutions. But let's zoom in on the energy sector. In 2024, we identified more than 350 energy tech companies, of which 200 had energy as their primary focus. And these companies are split into 8 subsectors: energy generation, storage, grid infrastructure, hydrogen, cyber and protection, and waste to energy. The ecosystem is not just early stage. About 40% of the companies are already late stage, public or even acquired, meaning that they have proven solutions that are ready to be implemented. On the investment side, Energy Tech in Israel shows very strong and stable development. And in the past 12 months, Energy Tech companies raised more than $500 million across 54 funding rounds. But why does all of this matter for you in Brazil? Well, I want to say that the system reality is actually similar. I mean, here in Israel, we have only around 15% of electricity that came from renewables, mainly solar, of course, while about 85% still came from gas and other fossil fuels. Yet we added about 900 megawatts of new solar PV last year, reaching roughly 4.5 gigawatts of solar capacity. But to develop it further, we need innovative solutions, and we have them a lot in different subsectors. In other words, I want to say that Israeli energy tech is not theory. It is built for hard environments, high prices, and tight grids. And my hope is that today's webinar will lead to a very concrete collaborations, maybe pilots, maybe POCs, or maybe let's go even further with, let's work with refineries or mining issues if you are representing any of these sectors. And maybe we even can maybe we can even have joint ventures or local manufacturing. And if so, Planetech is really happy to make it real. With this overview, I will stop soon and will give floor to the actual startups that are developing solutions. But I have a couple of slides just to give another reference of our approach, because I think it's really important. This slide represents that this slide represents our challenge-based approach, and if you see the pillar, it is a challenge, and around each of the challenges we have solution providers, facilities, investors, corporates working around this challenge, etc. As I mentioned, we have Planetech Market Square. It's our initiative to create a digital twin of the ecosystem. And if you are interested in scouting or in just understanding the types of solutions that we have, I can refer you to this platform, and you can visit it scanning the QR code on the slide. And the last slide that I have, I tried to to understand what is our value proposition for you can be. And I really see a lot of potential, really a lot of synergy that we can bring in terms of pilots. In Brazil with real facilities, pilots, POCs, open innovation challenges. It's something that Israel Innovation Institute and Planetech is quite experienced in identifying the challenges and bridging it with real solutions. And of course, if you are interested in our ecosystem in Israel and in innovation that we're doing here, you are more than welcome to join us during our Planetech World Conference next October. By the way, we also have a big event in May, if May is more convenient for you to come to Israel and to have a deep dive in the ecosystem. We have a big event during the Tech One conference. It's in May. If you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me to discuss the details. Just some of the photos from our events to feel the ecosystem, that it's not that structured it's not a structured innovation as in some countries and companies it is established, but it's more agile, it's more flexible, but it really delivers amazing results, amazing technologies, and that exports of technologies from Israel it's really insane. So thank you very much for this opportunity. If you are interested in more companies and solutions from our ecosystem, I would be really happy to have follow-up discussions. Feel free to reach out to me via email. You can scan this QR code and you'll get all my details. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Show, you're on mute. Show, you're on mute.
You are still on
Sorry.
mute.
Okay, sorry. So thank you, Yaroslav, very much. I want to say that the Planetech event is a very successful, and I hope we will bring a big delegation from Brazil together with Energy Hub for this event. So really thank you very much. Very interesting. And now I want to introduce Joel Sisa from H2 Pro. H2 Pro for me is a very interesting company, and I have a very interesting relationship. It came from the Technion. I am alumnus from the Technion, one of the best technology institutions here in Israel. And I accompany from the first patents for this technology, and I'm very happy what they have reached today. So Joel, please come in, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much for this introduction. I'm also a Technion student, so it's always a pleasure to meet the same people. Let me open my presentation. Wait a second. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
So again, thank you for the invitation. And my name is Joel Allerhand. I'm a business developer for H2 Pro in the area of Iberia. That means Spain and Portugal. So who is H2 Pro? H2 Pro is the first company that started developing and designing an electrolyzer that feeds to renewables. The rest of the electrolyzers were thought with a different mind. So this company was born from Technion like 7 years ago by a professor from the chemical engineering faculty. Today we are around, give or take, 100 employees, and we have raised in the past years around $100 million. And these are the investors: Breakthrough Energy from Bill Gates, Temasek, ArcelorMittal. You can see here Yara as well, and the CSN, which is from Brazil. So wait a second. So what we're trying to really tackle is a challenge of fossil parity. So if you understand today the price for a gray hydrogen, which is powered by not green energy, the price is around $1 per kilogram or $2 per kilogram. And if you see today the price for a green hydrogen, it's around $7 per kilogram. So there's a big gap between these two prices. And this is exactly the problem that we're trying to tackle. How we're trying to tackle. So we try to see the different views of how to produce cheap hydrogen. And if you see from this angle, 75% of the cost of hydrogen production comes from the electricity. So we're trying to use the cheapest renewable electricity and to really try to produce the lowest cost for hydrogen. For example, in many cases, if you go to the market, the European market for electricity, in many cases you can see that the prices go up and down. You can get even in the same day, if I give a number, 100 euros per megawatt in the day, and the next day you are in zero. So if someone wants to really attach their electrolyzer to the grid, it's really hard to understand what would be the price for hydrogen, because the price fluctuates a lot. Okay, so if I give you just an overview of the current technologies that are in the market, there are basically two. These technologies have been in the market for a long time, and every time they're trying to improve them, but they have each one of them have their challenges. If I go, for example, to alkaline, which is a commercial technology that you see in the market, it's a technology that you have to power the technology all the time with the same amount of energy. That means that you cannot be dependent on solar, because in the morning you have a less amount of energy than during the day. So if you see here this graph, which is the efficiency of the electrolyzer, you can see when you are powering the electrolyzer with lower power loads, the efficiency goes down by a significant amount. If you go to the other technology, which is more recent, which is called the PEM, it works better, and you can turn it you can turn it on and off only one time a day at the most, and in many cases you see degradation. Okay, so that's one of the problems of the technology, and as well the high capex. It uses platinum, radium, which is pretty expensive, and yes, this is the current technologies. Something that I didn't mention, for both technology, you need to use a membrane, which is part of the electrolyzer, and which is really expensive, and that's the reason if you turn off the electrolyzer, you can damage the membrane. So we saw the market, we see the problems, and we try to tackle this problem by making an electrolyzer which is super flexible with no membrane. Okay, and if I just explain a bit about the current technology. The current technology, as I said before, it has a membrane in the middle. It has two electrodes, in the left one and the right one, as you can see. The left one, you power the electrolyzer, and you start producing at the same time hydrogen on one side, and on the right side oxygen. Why it has a membrane? Because if you mix the hydrogen with the oxygen, it can explode. In our technology, we see things differently. We produce hydrogen and oxygen in the same space physically, but differentiated by time. So if you can see in the image, you can see the electrode, which we call it bifunctional, and because it acts as an anode and a cathode. And on the right side, we have a battery. So what we do, you charge the battery, and when you're charging the battery, you produce hydrogen. And when the system saturates itself, you revert the electricity, and you're discharging the battery, and you're producing oxygen. If we see our results, if we compare our results with with the current technologies, you can see that this is a graph where on the x-axis you have the power load in percentage. On the y-axis, you have the efficiency of the stack, DC efficiency. So you can see that we reached to really high efficiencies compared to the other technologies. And this is a really impressive thing that we have done. Apart from the other advantages that we have, as I said before, you can turn it on and off, which the other don't have. So if I conclude, if I say in general our what we have a hyper flexible electrolyzer with an ultra low capex, which is really interesting in the market that we don't see, and we see that we have a really high advantage in the market compared with the other technologies. Where we are now, we are a startup, or as they told us, we're more like a scale up. As you can see in our timeline, we have been producing 10 kilograms of hydrogen for the last 2 years in our lab with our technology, which is called decoupled water electrolysis. Our next step, which is to install 0.5 megawatts, which will produce around 2 kilograms per day of hydrogen. We're about to install it in the north of Israel. And in our next steps, we want to install the next capacities for electrolyzers in Iberia, starting from 5 megawatts as a demo. And the next step would be 25 megawatts as a first of a kind. And yes, this is our pilot. If you want to dive in, we're going to produce 200 kilograms per day. What we're doing with the hydrogen, we're going to inject it into the local pipeline of gas, where you can burn the hydrogen as the gas. And it will be completely attached to the PV, where the electrolyzer will follow the profile of the sun, which that means that they will produce during the day, and then at night will be off. And yes, this is our first pilot. And how this is how our design looks. As you can see here, this is the battery that I was talking before, and this is the bifunctional electrode where we have all of our patents. This is our mine. This is our thing. Okay. And this is just an image of how would look our plant for 25 megawatt. This is our system. And as I told you before, the hydrogen and oxygen will be produced in different times. So many people ask us, but wait, so you're going to start producing hydrogen for a period of time and then oxygen? And the question is yes, but not in every single stack. So for example, if we see here 8 stacks, for example, 4 of them would be producing hydrogen, 2 would be producing oxygen, and the other 2 would be maybe in the transition. So by doing this all the time, we make sure that 4 of them are producing hydrogen, so our production will be consistent. Another point that I forgot to say is that who are the consumers of hydrogen? So today, the main consumers are the refineries, which need the hydrogen, and most of them use or produce hydrogen, gray hydrogen. Another industry that uses heavily and depend heavily on the hydrogen is the ammonia industry to produce fertilizers. I know that Brazil is a big, it's in the market of agriculture, and Brazil is high dependently on hydrogen, so that's why it's pretty relevant for these markets. And that's it. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's always a pleasure to present H2 Pro and especially to Brazil. If you have any question, you can just contact me. You can send me an email, contact me in LinkedIn, and please feel free to contact. And if you want the presentation, please talk to Shaul, and I will be really happy to send it to you.
Okay, Joel, thank you very much. I have one or maybe two questions.
Yes.
How do you see today the applications for this technology? Where are the main application targets? Who are your clients? How do you see this technology used by the market?
Thank you for the question. That's a really good question. As I said, there are the current hydrogen consumers, which is basically the refineries, ammonia producers, metal companies, and as well maybe glass companies. And there is as well the future consumers, which can be heavy cargos, airplanes, mobility. We're talking about a lot of mobility, but I don't think this is a current market. The current market, as I see it, is for now the current consumers, refineries and ammonia. And then in the oncoming years, especially in Europe, there have been some obligations for the industry to use green hydrogen. So if you see the regulations that will be in the next years, they will obligate the transportation industry first to use green hydrogen, and then the heavy industry, which will be refineries. So this is how I see it, because to tackle the carbon parity, I mean, today, if a company can buy hydrogen for €1, they will not be, they won't like to buy it green because it's only green. They also see the price. So once the European Union will put all the obligations, that would make possible to lower down as well the price for hydrogen. Yes, that's basically, I think, the market that we have.
Okay, great. I went last year to the automotive expo in Hanover, and I saw several big trucks with hydrogen engines. Okay, so it was very impressive. Can you say 2 or 3 words about this issue of heavy trucks using hydrogen? Because in Brazil is a truck company, you know, trucks and roads. So I believe hydrogen for trucks will be a very interesting solution for the Brazilian market in the future.
Yes, of course. I'm actually now in a hydrogen congress in Spain, and Toyota is here, and they have a hydrogen car which is called Mirai, and I just today in the morning I tested, and it's amazing. Again, if I see the market, for example, in Europe, there are some projects for a heavy cargo using fuel cells for hydrogen. So in Brazil, if you're saying that it's a country that uses heavily trucks, that's a market that where really fits the green hydrogen, because for now, for example, you cannot have a truck with batteries. If you see it in the car industry, there are battery cars, electrical cars, and they're super, they have a really low cost. So if you tackle that problem today with cars that are powered with hydrogen, it will be really, really hard to make a competition. So heavy trucks, which cannot be powered by a battery or electrical, that's a really good market for the green hydrogen, where I think it really fits. The other market that is really relevant for Brazil is the ammonia market, which heavily depends on hydrogen. I just had a conversation with another electrolyzer producer, and they see Brazil as a really, really interesting market for green hydrogen in terms of ammonia production. So I see also the truck market, and also the boats that take containers to Europe. That's also another interesting market. And I think that's the next steps. These are the industry
Okay,
where,
great.
Yeah.
We have a question from Mariana Doria here. Where
Yes.
will be the facility in the Iberian Peninsula? If you can share.
That's, yes, of course, I can share. So we're talking about, I can answer the question. There are many things that depend on the location physically. So we want to be where the energy is cheaper, where you can install solar panels and you have more sun. So it's common sense to go where there's more sun, which will be south of Spain. South of Spain has a lot of sun hours. And if you see as well, south of Portugal has also a lot of sun hours where we're planning to make either partnerships or install our electrolyzers. In the other hand, you also have to look for the buyer of the hydrogen. You can produce in the middle of southern Portugal, but if there's not a buyer, then it's also an extra cost. So that's another important point to think about. So, for example, in the next, Europe is planning to install a 100% hydrogen pipeline that will start in Portugal, will go to Spain, then to France, Germany, Denmark. And this is really important to say that, because if you can get a lot of sun to produce hydrogen, and if you are really close to that a pipeline, then you can produce cheap hydrogen for Europe, for a German consumer, which Germany is one of the countries that consumes hydrogen. The country that consumes the most, that consumes hydrogen in Europe.
Okay, Joel, thank you very much. Congratulations for your company for this amazing technology that you brought from the Technion, and really thank you very much for sharing with us your knowledge, and see you soon also in Brazil, I hope.
Yes,
We have already
a
first Brazilian investor, so it's very, very promising.
Exactly, we have an investor, and it's a good market. It's an interesting market to be in.
Great. So thank you again. And now I will call for Ram Amar. He is the CEO of a Rewind Earth company. Ram, are you here with us?
I am. Hello.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you. You know, I will tell you a small story that Dr. Yaroslav, he connected between me and Ram, and when he did this connection, Yaroslav was in China. And it happens to be that Ram and myself, we are almost neighbors. So we have an Israeli connection done by a guy sitting in China for his trip. So it's very, very interesting. Ram, I'm very happy you are here with us. And please, the stage is yours.
Yes, it's not, we don't live in Tel Aviv. Everyone in Tel Aviv can be neighbors. We live far in the north.
Yeah.
So it's really a coincidence that we are so close to one another. Before I share some slides, a few words about myself. I'm you can say computer geek that spent 10 years in the IDF working on software projects, and then another 7 years working on a previous big data startup that I co-founded. And after selling it to Google, I wanted to do something with more meaning to my life. And that's what brought me into climate and sustainability. our company Rewind, our story began, you can say, in 2019, when we asked, how can we remove as much carbon from the atmosphere as possible? But over time, it has evolved like it does with many startups. What we realized today in our vision is to look at the mining industry as it continues to grow with the need for metals and minerals and rare earths for the energy transition. And we want to be able to restore and reclaim all the damages we do in order to make our lives better, but make it in a profitable way. So a little bit of background how we got here. We started in the marine environment, leading a concept called marine anoxic carbon storage. And in the past year, we met an underground coal mine in Georgia that was desperate to do something sustainable. And we developed a project from concept to operational in just 1 year, permanent carbon removal project. We closed $3 million in first credit sales. We developed a protocol for carbon removal with the world leading registry called Isometric, with 500 tons already removed, and we're looking at how do we expand and go global. And this brought us to learn about the coal mining market, which apparently is huge. There are more than 6,000 active mines, more than 2,000 underground mines, which is our particular focus, 8 billion tons of coal being excavated per year. And every mine in the modern age puts money aside for the end of life and closure of the mine. And there's quite a lot of environmental impacts that mines today need to take care of, starting, of course, from reclaiming the land, making it habitable for people and animals, to managing their tailings waste, a lot of crushed rock that there's nothing to do with, preventing acid from forming and flowing out to rivers and destroying everything around, preventing land from falling and creating holes if it's an underground mine, and particularly with coal, preventing methane emissions, which is a super pollutant. So the coal mine industry spends about $13 billion in mitigating all these damages, and we can turn it into a profit center instead of a cost center. And the way we do this is coming from our carbon removal background. We collect residual biomass, mostly sawdust and parts of wood that can't be used for anything else. We transport it to the mine and mix it with the existing tailings, with water, to create a slurry that is then injected. And I mentioned we're working with underground coal mines, so it is injected with pipes, filling up basketball-sized chambers that are no longer used underground. And then once they're filled and sealed, we install a full set of sensors and monitoring system that we know exactly what's happening with the air and all of the different gases from methane, CO2, anything that we need to measure, we collect and use all that data to generate revenue from the carbon removal, either for tax compliance, if you are in a country that has an emission trading scheme or some form of carbon tax. Working with Isometric is the pathway to get these credits to save the tax and reduce bottom line emissions, or sell on the voluntary markets, which are buying carbon removal in a growing rate from year to year. Our specialty, we're not an operational company, at least we mostly are a startup with expertise in biogeochemistry, which we use in our lab to create carbon-enriched backfill solutions. It's how we mix the biomass and the tailings and the water and whatever other chemicals that need to preserve the carbon and mitigate environmental impacts. We combine that biogeochemical knowledge with hardware and software that we use to quantify carbon, end-to-end from the supply chain. I'll show a little bit more about that later. And also ensure the environmental solutions that we are providing are monitored long-term. Mines work for tens of years, and then also the closure process is additional tens of years. I mentioned that we work with isometric and we look at compliance markets. So anywhere where there's a geography with a carbon tax and a regulatory framework allowing for carbon removal and carbon credits to be recognized as offsetting emissions, we are there. We're talking to the governments. We're working with isometric and taking the protocol and making it government approved. We take pride in the project that we built up in the past year. It's really a fascinating one. So a few slides about it. These images you already saw: sourcing sawdust, bringing it to the mine, injecting it underground. One very important criteria for using this biomass is to make sure that it has been sustainably grown and harvested, and that it has no other beneficial use. In Georgia, maybe a small version of Brazil, there are a lot of forests and a big timber industry, but also a lot of hydropower, and therefore for residual biomass, there's not a lot of good use. As you can see in the photos, huge piles of offcuts, the edges of logs, and sawdust that we are sourcing. And everything, of course, is verified in our MRV system. All of the shipments we take, we measure very carefully to understand the moisture content, the carbon content, and be able to quantify both our supply chain emissions, which are very low, and how much carbon we're removing with every load that is injected underground. The mine, in terms of permanent removal and how this achieves or competes with direct air capture and geological storage, this concept relies on plants and trees to be the direct air capture machines. They take CO2 with the sunlight and turn it into their own mass, their own carbon mass. And working with underground mines is as good as drilling a hole and injecting pure CO2 underground. What we see here is a cross-section of the mountain of our mine in Georgia. Here are tunnels that go into the coal seam and excavate, then backfill the chambers. And if we zoom in on just a single storage chamber, it is the animation shows how it's being excavated moving backwards, and with every subsection that is excavated is then sealed on the top and bottom tunnels leading to it, backfilled with the carbon enriched backfill. And once the whole section is filled up, then we call it kind of the cork seal. We fill up the tunnel leading to it just with mud and seal it with concrete doors, so no gas whatsoever will ever diffuse. Well, maybe not ever, maybe millions of years, but definitely surpasses the necessary 1,000 years of permanent carbon storage. We don't just rely on the science and the nice image. We install sensors, as I showed earlier, and complement the sensors with physical sampling of the soil, of the air, and take it to advanced labs for verification. And for our customers, whether they are the mine that needs the data to show compliance for tax credits, or whether it's companies that are offsetting their emissions and buying carbon removal credits, for every ton that we remove, we document its journey from the sawmill or the source where it was collected and what it looked like, so you can verify that there was no better use for it, through all of the measurements of moisture and carbon, and all the way to documentation of the injection process and data from the sensors monitoring it underground. Transparency is a core value to us, and we believe that it's extremely necessary in the space of carbon credits that have suffered from inaccuracies and sometimes fraud in the past. We're very much looking to expand. I mentioned Brazil is a country with huge amounts of biomass and many mines that can be reclaimed and be used as carbon vaults. We're very happy to partner and work with mining companies. We already have a few discussions with some of the big companies in Brazil. Also very happy to partner with paper companies and sawmills or companies that own a lot of forest land. That is Rewind in a nutshell, and I'm happy to take any question that you have.
Okay, Ram, thank you very much. Really very interesting and very important. You know, it's like doing good by doing well. Brazil is a big mining country, many mining companies, one of the biggest mine in the world, and we know the environmental damage that it can make. So it's very important that we have a solution that is not only to solve a problem that it's only a cost, but you bring here a solution that you can also have a return on your investment here. So it's very, very good. I'm very happy that we are already in contact with Brazil. We see this all, energy transition and decarbonization as a big picture. We brought here some technologies. And yes, Ram, thank you very much for being with us. So I don't see any question from the audience. So Ram, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ram. And if you get any questions afterwards, we forward to you.
Ok, então voltamos ao português. Estamos já finalizando aqui finalizamos as apresentações. Eu quero muito voltar e lembrar do que eu falei no começo sobre as Deep Techs. Vocês viram duas empresas aqui, os startups, mas aqui em Israel, startups já empresas que receberam dezenas e até centenas de milhões de dólares para desenvolvimento. Então foi assim, vocês viram empresas com alta tecnologia, o que em Israel é muito forte. Então, Alexandre, eu passo a palavra aqui para você. Agradeço de novo essa oportunidade, essa parceria, e espero que seja a primeira de muitas.
Tchau, muito obrigado. Parabéns pelas apresentações, realmente, as duas startups com soluções impressionantes. O hidrogênio já está ficando muito... A tecnologia já está bem avançada, não é uma tecnologia nova, mas como atacar a dificuldade de fazer com que o hidrogênio verde, chegue no valor de mercado e seja competitivo, foi o grande diferencial da solução que a gente viu. E a captura de carbono dentro de Minas, num país que tem uma operação enorme de mineração, faz todo sentido. Então, obrigado por trazer essas oportunidades para a gente, também trazer uma visão bem ampla do que é o ecossistema israelense de inovação. É impressionante, toda vez que a gente para e olha, surpreende. Gente, está terminando essa rodada do Energy Talks, uma rodada nova, totalmente virtual. Queria agradecer, a gente já comentei aqui, se tiverem alguma dúvida, se quiserem entrar em contato, mandar perguntas para todos os que participaram aqui, pode entrar em contato com a gente vai fazer a conexão, vai conectar vocês com os palestrantes e para que eles respondam suas dúvidas. Muito obrigado a todos que participaram aqui. Em breve essa conversa vai estar também online no YouTube. Tchau, mais uma vez. Obrigado pela parceria. Que seja a primeira de muitas.
Agradeço.
E é isso, gente. Bom dia a todos.
Tchau, muito obrigado.